Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Sim Racing Alliance. We are here with Season 10 and Round 1.
Boogity, let's go racing as the green flag jobs.
Looking maybe even full wide.
They're fanning out, there's a bit of contact. He's got the outside.
Side. That's a great move.
He's got plenty of speed in there and he's being held up.
He's gonna have a better run. Yeah, it's gonna stick it on the outside.
Well, that's a late move. 296 Ferrari, though, finds a space.
Oh, he didn't have it.
And we're on our way for SRA.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Sim Racing Alliance. It is Season 11, Round 4 of this Circuit de Spa Francorchamps for Division 1. I am Alexa Marshall, joined once again with Andrew Reethy. I probably botched that pronunciation. Perks of being British. Of course, wasn't here last week, but Andrew was here. He knows all about the Suzuka last week. However, of course, this week is Spa. And it's definitely going to be a good one to look out for. What can we expect this evening, Andrew?
Oh, well, a lot of good racing, I sure hope. I mean, it was a wonderful event last time out at Suzuka. Spa-Francorchamps has a bit of a unique challenge to it, of course, and we've been talking a little bit about the variation in circuits that we've had throughout the season so far, and I have to say that Suzuka definitely was my personal favorite for racing. Also, you know, just kind of on a related note, managed to take my second ever SRA win at Suzuka, which I was pretty chuffed with, I'll be honest. But yeah, no, it was a phenomenal circuit. We had Imola, which was definitely the more challenging, I think, of the three that we've had so far, and Barcelona for week 1, which was the perfect all-rounder. But now on to, I think, one of the most legendary circuits that we have seen or will see this season. It's Spa-Francorchamps, as you mentioned, and of course, taking a look here at the track map, you can see the famous turn 3, 4, 5 complex of Eau Rouge and Radion. For lap 1, I can only imagine that there's going to be some fun up in store for us. Sector 2, one of the most technical ones you will ever see, I think, in racing just in general. You've got a perfect mix of high and medium speed corners leading all the way through with very few overtaking opportunities, but overtaking opportunities indeed. So I'm looking very much forward to it. There might be a bit of a mix of downforce packages moving into this one, and talking specifically about differences in car selection. Let's take a look here at the team standings. We've got Michael Menning sitting on the top. I think we kind of all expected this one. Mia Rose is not far behind, though.
Yeah, definitely not far behind. Mia Rose, one of the stories coming into this season, realistically. Coming up to Division 1, and she is up there, not far behind. Michael Menning up there on 224 points. Mia Rose with 212. And then Mr. Sir sat there in P3 with 200. Down to P9. It is Guy Manpersa, or I'm butchering my pronunciations.
Guy Manperson, you're seeing that correctly.
Damn, it's 2 AM and I'm getting things correct. What is this? Of course, being the highest silver up there right now with 126 points in P9. But of course, before that, it was Jeff Spangler. He's now gold. He sits in P5, 177 points. So it's Michael Menning leading with 224, with Miro's P2 and Mr. Sir P3.
It's a big old fight for the podium positions in the gold championship. For the silvers, it's a little bit more cut and dry, of course, as you mentioned, Guy Manperson sitting out there with a somewhat comfortable lead. Bailey Kish actually sitting on the podium for the silvers as well, down in P16. Huge shouts to him. Of course, I have to plug Bendy Brew because I think I am under contractual obligation to do so. They're not one of the actual sponsors, but I feel very obliged to do that. We'll take a look here at page 2 of the standings, as it looks like the free practice session is just about coming to an end. In the race server, we got Roy K up here in 27th position. I've said so many times before, I've got high hopes for that driver. Number 30, though, Jacob Palmieri. We've talked about his story many times before. I'm going to try to give him as little screen time as possible today, because I think he might be a little bit shy of the broadcast camera, because he's had a couple of not so famous get-alongs with some of the other drivers so far in the realm of door banging a little bit too hard. One to watch for me, number 32, Matt Lehman in the McLaren 720S GT3 Evo. 54 points, and the vast majority, in fact, all of them, I believe, gained in Week 3's race, where he qualified in 29th and moved up to P12, did not participate at Imola, and did not finish at Barcelona. So a driver with pace, Andrew Rados as well, topping the hot lap leaderboard for Division 1 at Spa-Francorchamps. So I'm looking out for some good results from them as well. We'll take a quick look here at the team standings. You can see, of course, it's going to be Madhouse with Michael Menning leading the way. Madhouse times CM, of course, with Mr. Sir being their teammates. The Bullet Stang of Michael Menning leading for them, followed closely by We're a Barbie team. I mean, it's a close battle for that #1 spot. If Mr. Sir's performance starts to drop off a little bit, then things could definitely mix up.
Yeah, it's definitely one to look out for as free practice, of course, comes to an end where we're getting into qualifying very, very shortly. 20 minutes long, 10 minutes for the silvers, and then 10 minutes for the gold. And it is going to be a night race. However, for qualifying, will it be sunset or will it be good old daytime? We'll have to wait and see. But, of course, the silvers are going to be out first, with gold being after. And I think we know who's going to be on top for good old gold, if we're honest. But looking at the silvers, what do we think we can expect from those guys here at the start?
Well, Jason Allen, I know in the 12 hours of Spa, had a bit of a mix-up in the exit of Lake Combe, so I'm hoping that he has a little bit of better luck on his go around the deadly ring today. But as far as the silvers go, I really don't know what to expect. I feel like there's a reasonable amount of mix-ups that you can expect out of these guys. Guy Manperson, of course, is very, very solid on the pace. Jacob Palmieri, though, being newly demoted into Division 1 Silver after having some not-so-amazing performances, as we mentioned before. He might be topping the timing tables for this half of the field. And, of course, Bailey Kish, who is currently sitting in P3 on the Silver Championship. I'm looking for something of an improvement in position from him, but I believe it is going to be Zach Martin who we follow across the line first, heading down to the very famous Eau Rouge in Radion.
Yeah, definitely, as you head down through Eau Rouge and up to the top of Radion, of course. Radion's at the top. Lots of people think it's Eau Rouge, but no. Radion's at the top, and the house ain't there anymore as you head down onto the Camel Straight. It's pedal to the metal, foot to the floor for the number 41. He's going to be setting his first lap time here. The number 41, definitely one to look out for as you head down into the chicane. You don't want to get too much on that curb on the inside, or you may go for a bit of a spinal around through the right-hander, and it's definitely one track that you do not want to mess up. It is very punishing, and it's, of course, very heavy on your tyres. However, we did have the 12 hours of Spa earlier on this month, and it's definitely one to look out for, as these guys may have been competing in that, so you got to wonder, has that going to give them a bit more opportunity to practice in race conditions and qualifying conditions here around this famous circuit as we head through Pouon and down the hill through the left-hander and down towards the chicane once again. The Mercedes, one car to look out for, as honestly for me, with it being a medium and high speed circuit at most points, it is definitely a strong car around here, unless your Mercedes decides that the horsepower is going to go bye-bye and it does not want to work, as we now head onto the long final straight, which, well, straight, bend, whatever you want to call it. You pedal to the metal all the way, apart from a minor lift around this left-hander, if you're a bit unlucky, heading, which of course takes you down to the famous bus stop chicane, which realistically, that chicane can make or break your entire race. And of course, your pit lane entry is there on your right hand side. What you do not want to get a penalty around here, as it is a very long pit lane and you will 100% be out of contention, as Jacob, as Zach Martin goes across the line with a good old top of the time sheet, and the lap time is going once again, but Simons goes top, Duran goes top, all the drivers coming across the line. Diaz going to be going top in the McLaren 720S Evo 2, number 19 up there, absolutely loving it. Looking at Zach Martin, though, he's already up on his lap time. He was up by a second, with Simons also up by 2/10. Looking on the timing boards as we're going to be waiting for everybody else to come across the line. Diaz holding on for the time being with a 2-minute 17.157 time to beat for the silver drivers. As we look at Carpenter around the final corner of the bus stop.
Oh, I think
Line 6P13 currently only goes P12, but very lucky, very slow lap time as it is all the way up there as Guyman Person goes up into P6. Simons up on his lap time, 3/10 up at the time being 3.6, 3.7, gonna be going all the way to 5.0 as well, 0.5 I should say. As we continue going around this circuit, we're gonna have to stick on board with the man in the Porsche, the 328. Over to you, Andrew.
Yeah, Durance is looking like they're on a fair improvement as well. The Mercedes ahead, and I think Discord might have got a little bit exhausted there. You were on a roll through that segment of drivers, of course, all coming across the line, seeming to do one better than the other. As soon as you mentioned that one was going on to the provisional pole, the next one would come across the line and immediately steal it away. And already I'm seeing a lot of green deltas. In fact, pretty much the entire page is green. We're talking about Andrew Wilson almost half a second up on their time. Again, it's Danny Durant, who is half a second up on their time. Guy Manperson, who's a half second up on their time. Landon Dreves, who's a half second up on their time. Bailey Kish, who's more than half a second up on their time. Everybody is improving at this stage, and we're just waiting at this point. We're pretty much just as much passengers as anybody else could hope to be. There's so many cars on track with the improvements. I think Bailey Kish might have just run it a little bit wide. Jason Allen has also invalidated their lap, so they're not going to be improving on this one. And that's going to be a little bit of a mental stressor, because if everybody else is pushing and finding those improvements as Zach Martin retakes provisional pole, then you're going to be in some hot water.
Definitely, as we should probably move down to Ryder in the Aston Martin, the 916. He is currently starting his lap time. Is actually, what about K, the 888? He's 2.2 up, of 2.3. Of course, he is yet to set a lap time for 888 McLaren into the final bus stop chicane. As you want to get it perfect, and we're going to try get on board with it. But as we go to the line, he goes up there, only P10, 2 minutes 17.217 as Wilson goes fastest, 2 minutes 16.720. The track is coming alive, and it's what you love to see. But with the silver drivers setting these lap times right now, as the track comes more alive and more rubber gets put down, you gotta wonder what are the gold drivers going to be doing as we got 3 minutes remaining for the silvers qualifying. Curling on board with Quick as we go to the line with the Audi. Going to be going to the line. It goes up to P8, the number 8, with a 2 minutes 16.985. Going to go to Landon Dreves. We don't know why we're giving him screen time. We said we wouldn't do this. He's a little bit camera shy. Current lap time 2 minutes 16.967. 1.5 up, 1.6, 1.7, 2/10 up. As it's going to be keep on going all the way to the top. This is what we love to see. It's Spa-Francorchamps. It's an iconic circuit, especially when it comes to qualifying, just like here tonight.
So difficult to find the braking zone here for Pouan as well, but you can see that Landon keeps it right on the edge of balance. That Porsche wants to throw out the back so much in that kind of a braking zone, but he finds some time, 2.5 tenths up on the 2:16.967, a time which many drivers would struggle to even come close to, but he's still finding a little bit here through turns 13 and 14. Maybe runs a little bit wide, and that is going to be an invalidation of the lap. And now Landon's going to have to rebuild that gap and see if he can't find that delta that he was fighting so hard for. This is Jacob Palmieri, who I said I wasn't going to go on board with, but by God, he's up 4 tenths on a 2:17 flat. That would put him into pole position if he can hold on to this lap delta. It's only the bus stop chicane coming up here after Blanchimont has to keep it in track limits, and they're running low downforce setups. I might remind you, very easy to lose the back end of the car if you're a little bit too jerky on your motions. Has to hit the braking zone right all the way down through the gears, maybe a little bit wide at the apex, but looks good on carrying the speed through. Delta stays up through the exit of the bus stop chicane, and that should see Jacob Palmieri about a 10th up on P2 Colin Dunham.
Yeah, absolutely. Jacob Palmieri all the way up into silver pole. 2 minutes 16.607. Where's that going to put him at the end of it as we go down through a route up to the top of Radion? with Diaz, and we're going to be going down, of course, Camel Straight. This is where your straight line speed matters, as if you have too much downforce, you're going to get absolutely swamped down here. You're going to get absolutely slaughtered. The number 19 McLaren into the chicane. So what you'll love to see, 0.15 up at the moment for the time being through the right-hander as the sun begins to go down here at the Francorchamps circuit, and of course that may actually hinder the drivers as the track temperatures will cool, meaning that you will most likely end up losing grip as we head on to Simons in the Porsche. Of course, you know this corner, everybody knows it, down through Pouon. Down the hill, it's what you love to see through the left-hander. If this was the F1 game, you'd be getting absolutely, you wouldn't want to touch the curves, you'll be going spinning around, but no, not on this game, it's actually accurate. It's what you love to see as he is up on his lap time for the time being, 2 tenths up, nearly 3 tenths up. He's currently P7 with 2 minutes 16.925, and if he keeps on going like this, he may actually go right to the top of the timing board.
And hold the phone. I'm seeing Guy Manperson about a half second up on their time. They're coming through Pouon just now. Jacob Palmieri is also on a bit of an improvement. So Guy Manperson, notably slow so far in this qualifying session for the Silvers, is leading the championship for them right now. But if he can't find a major improvement on this lap, might find themselves fairly far down the order for their liking. Max Simons is still with that about 3, maybe even 4 tenths of improvement on their time. So I'm going to go on board with them as they exit the bus stop chicane and cross the line for the final time in their qualifying session with a sizable improvement up into P4. Jacob Palmieri should be coming up next through the bus stop chicane, maybe try to take that apex a little bit tighter this time, but it looks like it was about the same line. Consistency, though, is key. All the curb on the exit, and Jacob Palmieri will increase the silver pole to 2 minutes 16.4. Guy Manperson, where did he end up? Still up on his time into the bus stop chicane, same spot we just saw a moment ago. And it is looking awfully good here for the 599 BMW. Loads of time saved in the traction zone by the look of it, and will be a huge move up the order. 2P6, and what a way to pull out all the stops.
Yeah, definitely. It's what you love to see, really. Everybody just jumping up the order as currently on board. We're, well, not on board, off board, watching Russ goes up into P number 13. Not too bad, as we are past the 10-minute remaining mark, meaning that we should see gold drivers coming out onto track very soon. And it's definitely going to be interesting because where is that going to put Jacob Palmieri? Because that's a very decent lap time, and with the track cooling as the sun sets, you gotta wonder how it's going to affect the gold drivers overall, realistically.
It's very true. I'm trying to find who our leader is for the golds. I can't quite see it on my track map there. I believe that's the number 114, or is it the is it the 114? But I can't quite spot it with my terrible old man eyes. There it is. It's Peter O'Brien.
Oh, there he is. Way down through a rouge up to the top of Radion. It's honestly, I remember back in the day when that wall used to jump out at you. When it was a whole lot closer to that track, when it was a whole lot closer to the circuit, but now it's nice and far away, meaning that you do see a lot of drivers risking a invalidation by going very, very close to the track limits through Radion as we head through the right-handers down towards sector number 2. Peter O'Brien going to be heading on his lap time. First one to cross the line. Where's that going to put him up to? And obviously, we got to think about, while he's on his lap time, two people we've also got to think about are where they're going to end. Michael Menning and Mia Rose.
Yeah, Rose, who's just now starting her first flying lap, and Michael Menning, who's not too far behind, so we'll have to keep an eye on that one. But I feel like it's going to be another situation of, the time's really coming down for these drivers over the course of the session. Spa is not one track that you can just go out for one flyer, absolutely nail it on the first go around and be done with it. No, you have to find the flow. You have to be able to find the balance of the car, because with all of the medium and low speed corners combined with the high speed straights, you're seeing many of these drivers, mostly the ones in the McLarens, I imagine, running as little wing as they can possibly get away with. And I'm talking like bare minimum. Like if they could take the rear wing off these cars, they probably would. But they can't. Yeah. They can't do that. But you can see what I'm saying. They're trying to balance out the aerodynamic grip in the rear while still getting all of that high speed through the long straight sections. So they've got to work on the edge of the grip that's given to them and see what they can make happen as they come down to the line. Peter O'Brien through the bus stop chicane, and it looks like he might have taken a little bit deep there on the first apex, but he will set the first time for the golds. And let's see whereabouts this throws him. P2 on the board, and more times coming across the table in very short order. I want to see where people go. That's Latore in 19th, fairly nominal time for the gold drivers to put out on banker laps. Jeremy Mercer in 14th, and it seems like Peter O'Brien might be one of the only ones who really got a hold of it. I'll stand corrected though. Estefano Barrera for P2 unseating O'Brien.
Yeah, definitely, but still, Jacob Palmineri still up there as we are currently going to be watching it, as we're currently watching, I believe that, we're watching Sir heading into the bus stop chicane, currently P3 in the driver standings. Many people were expecting him to be right there with Michael Menning, but no, Mia Rose arrived under the scene. Just as I say that though, I should have shut my mouth. He goes up to the top as Mia Rose seems to have invalidated her lap time. But speaking of the man, the myth, the legend, Michael Menning, where's he going to go? To the line. Was he also invalidated?
I think he was.
Believe he was. Meaning that, so I hyped up these people for nothing.
It seems an awful lot like if you watch this line there through the bus stop, I think that he was trying to line up a better run across the start-finish straight there in order to maximize lap time on his first proper flyer. But I mean, really, as I mentioned before, the trouble with invalidating your first lap, your banker lap, is that you no longer really have a safety net, and you don't want to sacrifice one of your flying laps in favor of, you know, putting out another banker. So are they going to push from here on, or aren't they? I am actually seeing Mr. Sir, who actually has already invalidated his second flying lap. He's up actually a fair bit as well, so that's unfortunate for him. We're on board though with Edorados, as I mentioned. The driver who topped the hot lap leaderboard, I think it was a 2 minute 15.9 for this driver that we're on board with right now, looking to try and save some time on a 2 minute 16.8, which was their banker lap, and they're doing a fair job of it already.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, heck, even if it's just bankers, it's still a good lap time and it can put you up there. As I'm gonna, this is gonna be the one time I'm gonna point it out. Mr. Sir just casually being Boeing, but we know what. But we're not going to talk about Boeing. We're going to talk about Mr. Sir. Boeing, get rid of the 747 name, please. Anyways, as we're going to continue going on, if you know, you know. As we continue watching Red Us, going to be heading down towards the bus stop chicane in the Porsche, and it's definitely one to look out for. Personally, I'm on console, but I was at Spa earlier today, and in the hands of the right people, as actually, I'm going to stand corrected, Nordstrom up there into pole, number 20 Honda, where's he come from? 2 minutes 16, 2.80, Nate Speck up into P2, across the line, Rados goes P3.
It was a close effort there. Matt Lehman, who was a big story that we were talking about just recently. You were well correct. Mia Rose actually taking the pole away from Travis Nordstrom now. It looks like the first flying laps for a couple of drivers. This might be the only one that they need. This car currently sitting in P22, but is going to make a vast improvement on that position just now as Matt Lehman goes to the top of the timing sheet. It's a huge mix-up. Suddenly a driver who hadn't really been competing a whole lot, way up there in the order. I'm seeing some improvements come down the table already. Kelvin Lau is about a 10th up on their time. Peter O'Brien and Gomer Wilson in P10 and 11 respectively, about a 10th and a half up on their times. Estefano Barrera, who I'm going to go on board with now, 3/10 up on a 2 minute 16.597, which I might remind you, a 3/10 gap is what there is to P1 right now.
Yeah, so being up on that lap time, if it does stay like this, he will go fast. This is as Lehman only getting minor improvements, literally only going between 1 thousandths of a second and 100ths of a second. So it's really minuscule up top, and it's really hard to improve on by the looks of it, as actually Lehman has gone and invalidated. So that's definitely not going to help him out. Mia Rose not on an improvement right now. Highest improvement, right, we're watching him, is Estefano Barrera, going to be heading down towards the bus stop chicane in the Ferrari Spider. 6.39, definitely one to look out for in the cabin fibre. livery because I don't think the actual livery is invalidated. Is up on the lap time, and he's actually gone pole. Is Durham, the number 21 McLaren? I was about to say Mercedes. He's gone up top. 2 minutes 16.082. What about Estefano Barrera? Oh no, only up to P3. And that is going to be a 2 minute 16.197. Dan Cran, everybody's favourite admin. What's he going to be able to do throughout his lap time as we look at Wilson and heading through the bus stop chicane, pedal to the metal, foot to the floor, taking over Kirby, and he's going to be going to the line, goes up into P5.
Checkered flag is going to be out very shortly, and I still notice a particular lack of any good lap time for Michael Menning. I think he's just about to get across the line with barely any time to spare. This is an invalid lap for Menning, who is in 32nd position, so this is going to have to be the flyer of all flyers for Menning. I don't know what the story has been for this driver. I don't want to take my eyes off him. There is still a significant battle for the pole, I might add. Peter O'Brien has invalidated their last flying lap, so they're out of contention, but Duran is only about a half a tenth up on their time. Barrera in P3 has just invalidated their lap, so they're out of the pole fight as well. Matt Lehman has a very minor improvement. Andrew Rados has a little bit of an improvement. Mr. Sir has a little bit of an improvement in pocket, but this is a story that we're all concerned with right now. A 27.1, or excuse me, a 217.1 is the benchmark for championship leader Michael Menning, who absolutely destroyed Division 1 last season and seemed like it was poised to do it again in rounds 1 and 3, but so far this has been an unimpressive qualifying session. I wonder if he's qualifying on race fuel as he did in Imola, looking to make some moves up the field. I noticed as well Eric Marecki very far down the order for a driver of his caliber at present. He's up about a half second on his time. Timothy Flanger is up 3.5 tenths coming into the beginning of sector 3, and the pole sitter Dominic Duran is currently improving slightly, which I thought he was on an invalid lap, and I think he might have just moved the benchmark up a little bit, but I don't know if that's true. We'll stick on board with the last two runners to go over the line. This is Eric Marecki, about a half second up on their time. This would be a major improvement for them in the grid order, looking at a potential of 10 or so spots up into P11 for Marecki. Massive improvement. Mr. Sir also on a bit of a flyer right now, but Timothy Flanger is going to be first across the line with about 4 tenths in pocket. This could be a similarly sizable improvement for Flanger as they'll cross the line and gain 7 spots on the grid. Mr. Sir coming across in the Mustang shortly thereafter, a driver who's finished on the podium all 3 races so far this season, but it looks like it's going to be a relatively unimpressive qualifying for them as they go into P9. Jeff Spangler up 3 tenths. Michael Menning is in the pits, did not improve on their lap time, so Spangler will be one of the last drivers to cross the line, with Matt Lehman joining and Shirley just bailing out over into the pit lane. What a qualifying for Lehman, what a qualifying for Barrera, for O'Brien, and for Duran. I mean, this is completely unexpected for me. No Menning even in the top 10 anywhere. And we've got O'Brien, Barrera, Lehman, and Wilson before you even get to P2 in the championship, Mia Rose.
Yeah, I mean, one thing I am also going to point out, as I was looking at the intervals, heading into the bus stop chicane, Mr. Sir was 4 tenths up, which would have put him on pole. However, he then lost 3 tenths in the bus stop chicane, so he significantly lost out on pole there. And you got to wonder, Michael Menning is really far down as well. How is that going to affect both Michael Menning and Mr. Sir heading into the race? And is that going to mess with their heads?
Well, one thing's for sure, Menning has a lot of work to do if he wants to live up to the expectation that we set for him prior to the start of the show. But Mr. Sir, now in the position where he's more than likely going to have to do the heavy lifting for this team, this is a little bit of uncharted territory, I would wager, for them. Is it unexpected? I would doubt it. I feel like Menning, more likely than not, qualified on race fuel for Spa. And with it being a night race, you know, there's a little bit more variation. It can be very, very much harder to spot your braking zones and for Spa specifically, you know, you're not really using those braking boards all too often. Really, the only time I can think of it is the bus stop and La Source. So if you're trying to use those curves as braking markers, then you're going to struggle a little bit to find those spots. Mia Rose, lots of potential to move up here alongside Jeff Spangler, who didn't really have an amazing qualifying so far, but has been, I would argue, the second of the drivers on We're a Barbie team, but did have an impressive performance at Imola nonetheless. Jacob Palmieri ends up with the silver pole, as we mentioned before. 4 spots departed from P2 in the silver category. That's Colin Dunham in the 444 McLaren, next to Andrew Wilson in the 414 McLaren down there. So all the 400s apparently taking the silver podium positions to start this race.
I mean, yeah, it's definitely one to look out for. With everybody so far around the grid order as well, it's definitely going to be one to look out for us. There's going to be lots of people moving up the grid order, lots of people moving down the grid order as well. But Dominic Duran up there in pole, he's going to have Peter O'Brien alongside him on the rolling start. It's going to be the 21 versus the 114. As of course, it is going to be all the way here in the depths of the night in the Ardennes Forest. A huge thank you to our SRA sponsors and towel sponsors for supporting us here at SRA, as well as support from Documentize, a modern business solution for product management. Go to Documize to learn more today, and support from Retro Saga, a North American-based gaming company, that provides accessories for your favorite classic systems, including Nintendo, Sega, PlayStation, and much more. Enhance your retro gaming experience today at retrosaga.ca.
Something we couldn't do without our sponsors here. Well,
yeah, definitely.
Realistically, we could still put on a league without the sponsors, but it would be so much harder to do the server hosting, and I guarantee you it makes it so much easier. And I can almost guarantee you that nobody will be willing to do it. So their support truly is of great value to us. And we got
it is.
Yeah, we got a pretty good deal going, I'd say. Yeah.
Yeah, a very, very good deal. Just a shame that I'm in Britain.
There is no context to that. It's just that's just the way that it is. EU unlucky. That's unfortunate.
EU unlucky. You know what's also unlucky?
What's that?
I'm the only European commentator.
Unlucky for me, maybe. You Brits have a natural affinity for motorsport commentary, I fear.
I mean, I feel like it's just because we can change the accent so easily. Yeah.
I don't know. We had this discussion in the background. We'll not get into it here on the stream.
we'll have this discussion in the background, guys. This is what happens when you have a European in it. But yeah, it's gonna be definitely one to look out for. Currently watching Dan Cran for Plan E Racing. No idea what Plan E is, but you can probably ask Charles Leclerc, as it is Duran, followed by Peter O'Brien, Estebano Barrera, Lehman, Wilson, Mia Rose, Nord Storm, Dan Cran, Mr. Sir, Specht rounds out the top 10, then Rados, Flamger, Mayor Richie. I am butchering these pronunciations. I am so sorry, guys. Please do not cancel me. And then it's Jacob Palmineri, and then Mercer, Jeff Spangler, Lau Robinson, Dunham, Wilson, Simons, Diaz, Manperson, Escarcia, Sims, Sands. I heard it. Am I saying that correctly? Sands. Science without the I.
Signs, but the I decided to retire.
Okay. It decided to retire. It's gone back to the pick box. Followed by I've lost where I was now.
David Ramirez.
Followed by David Ramirez, Zach Martin, Landon Drebes, Quigg, Durance Rust, Michael Menning, the championship leader down at P33, followed by Ryder, Kish, Kay Carpenter, Alan Chan, and Charles, as we'll probably look back towards the front of the grid once again as we head down towards the bus stop chicane. Turn 1 is definitely going to be one to look out for eventually, but of course Rouge and Radion down the Camel Straight. That's what we're going to see is Charles is actually in the pit lane. Does not surprise me considering his car's yellow and it looks like a safety car. So honestly, I've made this joke many times, guys. You should know this by now. It's just I wasn't here last week because I was asleep. Blame my European sleep schedule. I've had to chug a monster before this.
It's quite a fairly late hour for you making these races, so it's only fitting, I suppose, that it's a night race here at Spa.
Yeah, I mean, finally it catches up to real life. So, I mean, heck, it's nighttime outside. It's nighttime in game as you head down past the main to start the pitch straight. And of course, you don't have turn 1 here on the race start as you start just before Rouge and Radion. Of course, it's having the longest pitch straight here, and so you definitely do not want to get a drive-through on the start as that will 100% put you out of contention as you see all the cars with the headlights on heading around turn 1, and we're going to wait for it as there's Timothy Flamger going to be heading around as well as you look at the middle of the pack and you see all the lights heading around, and it's going to be all the way down towards Rouge and Radion. Duran on pole, followed by O'Brien. It's wheel to wheel, side by side. Hopefully there's not too much carnage at the start as we continue waiting for it. As it's boogity. Let's go racing and in Spa Francorchamps as the green flag drops and away we go. Nice and clean for Rouge and Radion by the looks of it as everybody's getting through. That's actually what you love to see as it's going to be going down the Camel Straight. Who will make moves? Who will get the overtakes done? Who will keep it nice and clean? As it looked like it was going to go 3 wide momentarily further back as Barrera already up there, still in P3. Lehman is in the pit lane actually looking on the left hand side, so that's what happened. As we head through this chicane, it's wheel to wheel, side by side once again. The 747 heading through the right hander with another car. 747 stays ahead. And Mr. Sir still trying to keep on where he is as we look at Timothy Flamger. Look for a move around the outside maybe on Mekri as that's contact, around goes, and it goes round. I don't know who that was. That is good old Jeremy Mercer seeming to have a bit of an incident as it was 3 wide momentarily. It still is 3 wide, and you do not want to do that here, lads, especially in the night time, in the depths of the Ardennes.
Let's just say that was a crazy race start, but they still managed to keep it pointing the right way. So Jeremy Mercer looked an awful lot like he was going to be sideways for an extended period of time, but they got it back on track, somehow managing to re-safe jointly, as we say in the community. That's a nice little move up the inside here for that's Max Simons against Guy Manperson, who hasn't necessarily had the greatest start to a race that he's ever seen, but he's still on track, and that's more than we could say for a couple of drivers. As you mentioned, there were a couple that went back into the pits, Matt Lehman amongst them, who had an amazing qualifying session, but ended up having to take that pit lane start for one reason or another. I don't exactly know what went on with that one. That's a car a little bit wide. I believe that's Zach Martin who's able to keep it under control in that Mercedes, but is most likely going to lose out on a position or two. But further up the field, we see Mia Rose still up with Estefano Barrera, and Mia Rose who picked up 3 spots here on the race start. I mean, that's just a phenomenal way to begin your race. Andrew Rados is going at it now with Dan Cran, and it looks like Cran's going to be the loser in that fight as the Porsche goes by.
Yeah, and Mia Rose getting the fastest lap on the race start. No surprise there. Qualified P6, now P3. Michael Menning trying to make his way through the field. He qualified P29. He started... In fact, no, has he made up positions? Or did he qualify P29? That's a big pile up!
I don't know what's happened there.
It's majorly lucky. Who are those? That is Patrick Rust. And I believe that was Gustavo Santos. That's another contact. That is going to be major collision. There's going to be a major yellow flag to Rouge. And I believe that is a 4-car pile-up, maybe a 5-car pile-up momentarily. 4 cars getting caught up in the thick of it as Gustavo Sanz resets to the pit lane as Landon Drebes going to be making his way through. Roy Kay already making his way through as well as that is a car pulling over on the right-hand side. I believe that was good old Charles, maybe, I do believe, heading down the Camel Straight, though.
Goodness
major
gracious.
pile-up. Honestly, that's what you get away with it on the very start because everybody gets through turn 1 nice and clean, and it's basically just pedal to the metal. But when everybody's so bunched up like that and they're all trying to compete for positions, something like that is going to happen eventually. But as we head down through the right-hander, heading downhill, of course, that's Spa for you. You head up through a Rouge and down through a Rouge and up through Ready, and as Nate Specht going to be battling with good, as he's actually P12. Borders and picked up on the left-hand side with Timothy Fanger, as that's the car off of that's Palmineri. He's off. He's had an absolute shocker, mate. I don't know, was that contact? Or was that maybe just losing the rear end? It makes it hard to tell here in the night time. But right now, Nate Specht, we're at Ford Champion Motorsports Season 11. He's losing out. I believe that was Robinson who's taking over him. But as we head through the left-hander, down towards the bus stop chicane, headlights are on in the depths of the night, keeping it nice and clean. I thought that may have been a little wiggle. Maybe it was just netcode as you look over the rear wing with the beautiful SRA logo right on the back of it. Spat banging, perfect view. I'm not going to make that comment. As further back in the chicane, actually, that is Andrew Wilson versus, Andrew Wilson is ahead. I believe he got the overtakers. There's Diego Lorente versus Villas Diaz. Going to be real two-wheel side-by-side momentarily through turn one. It's actually Diego Lorente going to be going wide as Simons of Max. I have no idea why I said it backwards. Going to be going wheel-to-wheel side-by-side with, I believe, Zach Martin. No, whoa, that was real close. Maybe a bit of track limits there for man person, as it is all over the place. Andrew has it easier than me. He has race control. I just have to pick up what's on the left-hand side of the leaderboard as Zach Martin, I was just talking about him, in the Mercedes, has to stay where he is for the time being, but he definitely got an overtake up into P number 22.
I think Dan Krantis lost position there to Eric Marecki here through Rivage. And I think that it might have been a little bit of an off moment. Victor Diaz just lost his spot to Diego Latorre by the look of it further down the field. And you can see drivers going well wide in many, many different areas of the track. I mean, we were watching Guy Manperson go up through Eau Rouge and Radion. I thought for a moment that Guy Manperson was going to commit to trying to keep it on track. And you saw there was really nothing between the two cars. I was shocked that they didn't come out of that one in a bit of a spin. I mean, it would not be the first time that we've seen that so far tonight. Division 1, I mean, it is hard racing, but you got to try to keep it clean. There are many cars in the pits. I would not be surprised if there were a couple of retirements as a result from that crash, that big pileup at La Source. But
yeah, I mean, yep, go on.
Well, I was going to mention, I feel like that's going to be certainly a race-defining moment, especially for the likes of Michael Menning, who got involved in that incident and probably picked up a fair amount of front damage. Michael Menning, who has made up even more positions now, again, may have been as a result of that crash, but sometimes you take what you can get.
Yeah, you definitely take what you can get, but one thing, this is a thing what we've been saying on the console side of things, I don't know about PC, but in the corners, the good old Ford is like a tank, and even with collisions it seems like it's a bit of a tank as we head down towards the bus stop chicane. Maybe looking for a cheeky move down the inside on Simons, as actually Simons goes deep. It's very unlucky for him. That is going to give Michael Menning the better line. As, am I correct or was I incorrect? I have game update, please.
You were correct, but somehow Simons just got that traction down by the look of it. There's more battles going on further down the field, though. I want to check on this. This is Mia Rose chasing down Estefano Barrera for P2 right now. If we take a look at the bumper cam, you can see they're getting rather close to the diffuser. That's the 639 in front, and it's Ferrari versus McLaren at this point. Oh, huge contact, and they're both going to go around. Mia Rose and Estefano Barrera. Rose actually keeps it pointing in the right direction, but Barrera moves way down the order now, and you're going to have to rejoin safely. You can't get back on the power until everybody goes past, and they're going at racing speed. Indeed they are. So Barrera out of P2, and you can see avoiding action taken there by a couple of cars, and it was almost contact. Oh my goodness. This has got to be the worst place you could possibly be in as a racing driver, but somehow they all make it through without contact.
I mean, that's just a testament to the skill. As oh, here comes another one. As yeah, just going onto the grass, I do not blame them. But what's even more impressive is we're in the middle of the goddamn night.
That's difficult. There's a reason. There's a reason why you get yellow flag updates on your dashboard in quick cars, and that is it. Oh my goodness.
I mean, yellow flags are definitely needed. Michael Menning, he's made up another 2 positions actually, but what skills by Mia Rose, like, god damn, getting getting absolutely spun and just saving it like a champ. Maybe that's just a thing.
Yeah, that had to be like the luckiest thing that could have happened for Mia in that instance, because that looked like it was going to be a massive crash on both accounts.
Yeah, it did look like it was going to be massive, and Mia Rose got away scot-free up into P2 as well. So, yeah, realistically, Mia got involved in a crash, but she got right up there without having to worry as down the inside goes Mr. Sir, but nope, there's contact, and bye-bye. No, Mr. Sir's right there. Board update. Board is being weird. Oh, wait. Or was that a lapped car?
That was Travis Nordstrom who just got spun a little bit there. By Andrew Rados, and Mr. Sir is going to take advantage. I think Rados kind of got a little bit of what they deserved on that one, if you'd be so inclined. We had a little bit of movement further down the field. I believe Colin Dunners got past Jeff Spangler, who's only a couple of positions ahead of what we're looking at now, and that's going to be a huge move up the inside. No way Travis Robinson gets away with that. There was a little bit of contact, but I'm not sure if that was initiated by him. Was that 3 overtakes in one corner there?
Yes, it was.
What a move.
Are we sure we don't need more night races, guys? Because this has really kicked off at the start. Are we sure we don't need more night races? But here we go then. Jeff Spangler once again going to be battling, keeping it still, keep it there, keep it in a straight line. We don't need any more collisions on the Kemmel straight, wheel to wheel, side by side, heading round the outside right here. But there's the contact. Maybe it caused by a little bit of net code, but he's flashing his headlights. I don't think he was very happy about that.
I should know as well, Estefano Barrera returned to the garage after that contact, and I cannot say that I blame them. I mean, it was a huge incident. I don't know how much damage they got. They might have bounced off the barrier. My memory fails me at this point in time. But one way or the other, you drop that many positions from P2, that's going to be a massive hit to the mental, no matter which way you slice it.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably just best to return to the pit lane at that point, because honestly, if I were caught up in a collision like that, I would be trying to make my way through the field no matter what the cost, and I would rather return to the pit lane than be a liability on track. Not saying that he would be, but sometimes the mentality can kick in of, I'm really far down now, I've got to do all I can to get up there, no matter what the cost. As Omar Escorcia all the way on the back of Ryder, and it is Fusion Racing Team, the 822 Ferrari, who is going to be all over the back of him, as of course we know where he's going to have his run. He's going to have his run down towards the bus stop chicane with that very beautiful livery, and it's going to be now pedal to the metal, foot to the floor as we go down towards the bus stop chicane. This race will finish at midnight in game. P29 versus P28, kicking up a little bit of dust right there. Going to be getting all over track limits as the slipstream will now kick in. Maybe look for a move into bus stop chicane as he pulls out and he goes down the inside. Lovely little move, nice and clean, takes the line to defend. That's what you'll love to see, as it is going to be Brian Ryder for Mahadus Racing who pulls it into the pit lane. You got to wonder, maybe he has a bit of damage, or maybe he's just going for that early pit stop here at Spa-Francorchamps.
At this point, if you don't have damage, then you are one of the lucky few, because there are so many cars that have been involved in an incident. You can see the Aston Martin power here playing into the hands of Timothy Flamger in that straight line, but the McLaren up the inside is going to have just a little bit more in it. You can see that Flamger has to bail out. Dan Cran is going to stay ahead in this fight, and there might be a little bit more loss there as Kelvin Lau is going to make their way past. A position lost for Flamger, who looked like he was in a reasonably good position to attack. But when you're talking about fighting that McLaren with all that downforce to spare, then you're going to have a little bit of trouble. You want to try to make it happen on the straight, and we talked a little bit about the different downforce packages that we could expect in the race today, and that feels like it's a little bit of an inbuilt downforce differential. You know, talk about the Aston, a little bit lethargic in the corners, but will absolutely burn you up for power in the straight line.
Yeah, I mean, speaking about it, it's not at Spa, but it's definitely one to think about when it comes to it. Nürburgring, you got the Schumacher S. The only car that can take that flat out is the McLaren with the correct setup. So that's really just a testament to the McLaren's both downforce but also straight line speed, realistically. That's why a lot of new people to the game choose the McLaren, because it's a very well balanced car and a lot of people like to choose it. But when it comes to a championship, you've also got to look at all the tracks. and take your opportunities where you can and see what car will work best. That's why you see quite a lot of mix on the field, lots of Lambos, mainly McLarens, but you've also got the Fords, BMW, Porsches, Audis, and Hondas, well, a singular Honda of Nordstorm. Speaking of Nordstorm, he's right there. He's trying to defend number 20 for North River Racing. The number 20 just chilling there for the time being. 0.5 to the car behind him, and it's 0.8 to the car behind him as Michael Menning up into P number 19. He's got past Diaz. He's got past Victor Diaz, and honestly, Michael Menning just slowly carving his way through the field. There is 45 minutes left in this race when pit stops come around for tyres. You've got to wonder, well, how far up is Michael Menning going to get? As actually, a little bit further back momentarily, you look back, two cars were going to go side by side as we move to Brooker Quigg, but he's just going to chill behind for the time being as we head down for Eau Rouge and up to the top of Radion onto the Kemmel Straight. Watching the Audi versus Mercedes. Who is the better horsepower? Who is the straight line speed as it is going to be Brooker Quigg, who's going to try and get the slingshot from the slipstream. The Mercedes moving across a little bit. It's very hard to keep. Oh, it's actually, I don't think that was even contact. I think that was just the Mercedes losing the rear end downforce momentarily going into the corner.
Let's see if my replay will play nice with me. So, been trying away from using this one, but the ACC race control, I think, will give us a look into this one. And there was some contact there. Zach Martin, I believe, owed the space on that, and Brooker Quigg made it through. So a little bit of pain there for Martin as they move down the order. Just another incident in the sea of sad stories that we've had so far here on Spa-Francorchamps.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I mean, everybody knows it. It's one of the longest circuits, not as long as Le Mans and Nürburgring, which recently happened with the 24 hours of both, actually, of course. The 24 hours of Nürburgring.
Well, I was about to say one of which was more eventful than the other, but really, which one would I be talking about is the real question.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the Nordschleife kind of only happened really 1/3 of the race, considering that with the Nordschleife, fog rolled in and it was like, nah, not happening. I mean, speaking about Spa as well, of course, this is going to be a dry race all to the end, but Spa, you can never tell with the weather, as of course, 2021, I'll throw it back, 2021 Formula 1, of course, that race right there, that race happened, and, well, it happened for 3 laps under a safety car because the weather gods decided, you know what, you're not going to have a race, what you're going to have is torrential rain, and somehow we got to see McLaren playing Uno.
I don't know what the context is for that, and I don't want you to tell me because I think I'd rather guess and then Google it later and see if I was correct. But something I do want to touch on, though, Michael Menning, for not the first time this race, not the second time this race, I don't even think, but probably for the 3rd or 4th time this race, made a move at the bus stop chicane against Diego Latorre. And I have to say, just remind me from here on to switch to Michael Menning when he's coming up to the bus stop. This is going to be Travis Robinson looking up on the inside of Colin Dunham. Gold versus silver here, and it looks like Dunham has got to bail out just a little bit, and now it might be 2 positions lost. Robinson up the inside with Jeremy Mercer trying to sneak into this battle now, and it looks like it's probably going to be the position gate as long as Mercer is solid on the brakes. But it's a bit of a challenging corner. You got a trail brake in, get that front end rotated. They're going to be side by side going in through No Name now. And it looks at least for Travis Robinson as though he's got the move done. And Colin Dunham will only cede 1 position in all of that action. A very tense moment there, but well raced.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely one to look out for realistically, because especially when it comes down to it, as actually, I believe that is Jeff Spangler versus Wilson Nate Specht, actually, versus Jeff Spangler, as these guys are just going wheel to wheel with each other. It's what you love to see, and honestly, Spa, let's be honest, Spa absolutely never disappoints. And it's just going to keep on going all the way down to the bus stop chicane. These guys have exactly the same car, so it all comes down to who has the better setup. And of course, Slipstream will come in to play, and it's going to be going all the way to the bus stop chicane, and of course, when you wheel to wheel, you'll want to have it absolutely perfect. And maybe you can upgrade your sim racing experience with premium 3D printed accessories featuring precise crafted magnetic shifters, sleek cable management solutions, versatile stream deck mounts, and immersive dashboard displays by AT3D Sim Shop, as it is elevate every lap with top tier quality and craftsmanship at at3d.net. As we continue going through turn 1, and it's just chilling for the time being, but Simons and Guy Manpersa as well. Bailey Kish, no, it was Guy Manpersa, as these guys, oh no, we're watching Max Simmons. Board, please be nice to me, as we're going to continue down our route and up to the top of Radion. Slipstream is there for the Beamer. It's all the way all over the back of him. GBR not fast, still furious. I'd beg to differ with that BMW down the Kemmel Straight as Mr. Sir on the left hand side into the pit lane, the 747 Ford.
Yeah, there's so much going on at any given time. My race control is practically yelling at me to switch on to different fights at all different points of the track. But we did see a little bit of mix-up in that, what looked to be the McLaren GT3 Cup battle going on in the midfield there. It was a huge group. Nate Specht, Jeremy Mercer, Colin Dunham, the whole works, realistically. Basically, if they were in a GT3 Evo, they were probably in that group. But they started to separate a little bit out as a couple of them pulled into the pits, as you mentioned. So that strategy is starting to come into effect. Michael Menning is in the pits right now. I just looked to see his name a little bit, just in case I missed another one of his apparently famous bus stop chicane overtakes, which, I mean, the Mustang is reasonably strong on the brakes in my experience through that section of track. So I wouldn't be surprised if that continues to be the story for Menning, but the undercut is going to be an interesting concept here, especially this early for some of the pitters. I mean, we're talking about a fairly early pit stop for a 60-minute race. You're coming in at the 39, 40-minute mark. I see the 379 is off. Oh no, who's that? That's somebody who's already experienced an incident. I think that's Velez, who's going to return to the garage. I think that was at the top of Radion. And oh my God, I took my eyes off the screen for 1 second, and there's a huge incident there. That's Colin Dunham, who's been thrown into the barrier by, I think that was Jeremy Mercer.
Yeah, I mean, I believe it was as well, as it's gonna, that is, how many incidents have we seen this evening? I mean, everybody, I think the top 10's kind of getting away with it. Well, apart from Mia Rowe, she got caught up in that. She just got very, very lucky as everybody comes in to the pit lane, as we're going to get a replay right here. I think, yeah, we're just seeing the car.
I think I erroneously blamed that on Jeremy Mercer, but I saw Spangler come into the pits. I didn't quite put it back far enough, but Spangler, who looked well off there and pulled into the pit lane immediately after. And I think Spangler may have been the real culprit in that one, but oh, Colin, that was such a good fight that was going on between all of the Macas. Why does it have to end like that? Nate Specht had a little bit of a moment like that one earlier on. I don't remember who it was, but Nate Specht, I think, shoved somebody out at one point. I could be wrong on that one. They could have been the victim. I'm not a steward, all right? I'm not here to make judgments for them, but I'm pretty sure Nate Specht was at fault for something earlier on.
Yeah, I mean, it's Spa for you. It's either you get it absolutely perfect and you're chilling, or even the minor mistakes can punish you. For me, Spa's basically just a smaller Nordschleifer in my opinion. Sure, the curbs don't absolutely don't absolutely eat you up and spit you out like they do with a Nordschleifer, but I'm going to cut away from that as we go to Andrew Wilson versus, I believe that is, as he's down in P16 right now, I believe that is Guy Manpersa, as we continue on going. All these guys wheel to wheel, side by side. So what you'll love to see realistically as we're headed down towards the chicane once again. Around the outside is Andrew Wilson. No, he's on the inside actually. Love a little move there, and as it's going to continue on. It's absolutely amazing what you'll love to see. 37 minutes, 23 seconds remaining here at Spa-Francorchamps. And of course, now this is the time where we gotta be thinking, is this the time, is it these next 20 minutes Is this where majority of the grid is going to be coming in to pull their pit stops? And who will get the most out of it, as it is Kelvin Lau going to be looking for a move maybe as we continue on. It's going to be all the way, as I stand corrected. He's the one who's being overtaken as we continue down towards turn number 1. He's got Mercer on him, heading down through turn number 1. Love the little overtake down the inside. And it is going to be going down to Eau Rouge and up to the top of Radion once again. And it's honestly, for me, this is just a true testament to the driver's skill, considering that they're doing this in the dead of night, and all they can see is what their headlights see.
I love the livery saying hasta la vista, baby, but right now it's Dan Crank coming back for that move to try and get back past Kelvin Lau into the braking zone for Lecombe. And it's been... Well, it's a bit of a, I won't say blood-soaked, more like oil-stained bit of tarmac up there at the entry to Lecombe. So we've seen more than a couple of drivers being pushed off the track or even spun around, maybe even a little bit prior to that. It was the incident on the straight with Mia Rose earlier on with Estefano Barrera, who that was a race ender for Barrera, I might add. I think that he is currently out of the server. So that was a race-ending incident. I think Bailey Kish just lost a couple of places. That was Wilson, Quigg, and Carpenter who all went through according to my race control. So I think Kish may have just had a misfortune. And I'm seeing a lot of invalid laps on the board as well. I haven't seen any drive-through show up just yet, but it's on the back of my mind right now.
Well, one thing to point out, Mr. Sir's just gone fast in this, so obviously he's on fresh rubber, but now that he's going faster and faster, so I'm thinking, how's that going to affect things when it comes to a pit stop? Nope, I've just been shut up because good old Michael Menning's gone fastest. Why am I not surprised?
Menning, who's already up behind Nate Specht, and Menning, who's trying to make up for the DNF at Imola. On top of, I mean, this is a situation where Menning, if it was indeed a fact where he just didn't have the qualifying session that he would have liked, you know, he might be trying to make up for the fact that you can't just drop out of this race because you have a very real championship rival who is currently sitting in one of the top spots, who actually did just come into the pit lane, I might add. Mia Rose into the pits alongside Andrew Rados. But you can't just not drive this race. You have to try to finish and finish as strongly as you possibly can, which is most likely where he was coming from with the early pit, and is currently sitting in, what's that, 5th, I think, of the pitters, but with Nate Specht in front. You know, this is not a driver who likes to give up positions. This might be one of the most elbows-out drivers that we've seen so far this season.
I mean, one thing to also think about is Nate Specht. He's just up there. He's an absolute, honestly, Nate Specht is an absolute tank. I've got to give it to him, and we can't really point him out as he does have number 3 in this car, so kind of saying that he's the 3rd best driver, but people have different numbers, you know how it is. And it is Nate Specht who's just chilling there for the time being, with Michael Menning all over the back of him as we just continue on throughout the rest of this race, and the race lead just remains unchanged, chilling up there. As one thing to also think about is how far off the leader is Mia Rose. We saw her up in P2. Of course, she had that incident where she got spun around and lost loads of time as well, but you've got to wonder, is Mia Rose going to be winning this, or no, she's into the pit lane.
Yeah, she's into the pits, but she's been there for some time now. As I mentioned, alongside Andrew Rados. I'm looking to see where they come out in relation to this fight. It looks like her car was just released right as I was switching off. And Nate Specht is actually looking for a potential attack here against Travis Robinson, but just a little bit too far back there to gain that leverage alongside. And I believe Rose is crossing the pit limiter line just now, so loads of a gap here to Menning. Not going to have to think about your championship rival at this point in time, which is going to be a major boon for you. Needless to say, I mean, of course, it's Michael Menning. Right now, the driver under the most pressure has to be Nate Specht. Then again, it could be Travis Robinson after going wide at La Source, looking at the prospect of going 2x2 in Eau Rouge and Radion. But I don't think anybody wants to go for something like that. This is a huge opportunity now for Menning. If the 2 cars in front begin to fight, then this could be a potential double overtake. It wouldn't be the first time that we see more than 1 car lose a position in the same corner.
Yeah, definitely. As you head down the Camel Straight, you can see him in the background. You can see the headlights. Michael Menning all over the back of Nate Specht. But as we head down into the chicane, Michael Menning just going to bide his time. We've still got 32 minutes in this race, so you definitely do not want to push it. However, one man who will want to push is Nate Specht, because I feel like if I were him, I would want to put a car between me and Michael Menning.
Race leader Dominic Duran is in the pit now. Bailey Kishes received a stop-go 30 penalty, presumably for speeding in the pit lane. That's going to be a race killer. At least you weren't involved in an incident, Bailey. So if it makes you feel any better, there is that, but I don't think that it will, considering how things have shaped up for them. And it looks like most of the fights are starting to kind of dissipate here throughout the field, save for this one right here. Menning is going to be quite unhappy with his position, has the purple lap of the race, 2 minutes 17.2, which is an insane pace, but stuck up behind Nate Specht, who, as I mentioned before, is going to be doing everything in his power to battle this car behind, while still making a move here against Robinson in front.
Yeah, like, for me, if I were in Michael Menning's position, it would be getting to my mind, because you do not want to be this far back. Your championship rival is all the way up there getting all the points, and if I am correct here, just from the top of my head, I did pass maths, so I should be. As it stands, I do believe Mia Rose would take the lead of the Drivers' Championship.
Speaking of taking the lead, Duran just now released from the pit lane, but Mia Rose out of the source. This is going to be a relatively close call. They weren't separated by a whole lot when it came down to it before the pit, but I think Duran should have the advantage here on the exit. You can't even see the headlights of the trailing McLaren there. They're just coming up over Radion, so the gap will stay just about as it was, and with Duran having the advantage of fresher tires later on in the race, this could have a significant impact. More cars coming out of the pit exit and into the traffic of what could be the podium positions. This is going to be a reasonably large shakeup. You can see a position going to be lost here for Travis Nordstrom on the pit exit. Not a whole lot to be done there as Andrew Rados goes past.
Yeah, just no surprise there. I mean, realistically, you're going to be slower down the Kemmel straight when you come out the pit lane, because the way that the pit lane is, it's a lot more curvy and you just can't get the acceleration down as much. So you're going to be losing the time there. So if you're coming out into traffic, you can expect to be overtaken quite a few times. But Nate Specht still defending from Michael Menning, and
well, you think that from the time he should have left, but that was Menning just getting by there.
Oh,
I know ACC's kind of screwed with you a little bit on that one, but it looked like it was traffic.
ACC screwing me.
Yeah, it looked like it was traffic going through there, through Lake Home, but didn't quite have the same speed. So Specht basically just had to concede. Had to brake a little bit early, and Menning carried more speed through Lake Home, went off the outside, and then had the run going through Malmedy. And there's not really a whole lot more that you can do if you're Specht in that position.
Yeah, like, that's not even a joke. You can't. Traffic is really one thing that affects racing sometimes, especially at the pit stop period. You see it across all the categories. If you got traffic in front of you, but you got a guy behind you at the same time, one of you is going to come out better, and if you're the one who has to get stuck behind traffic and the guy behind you has the slipstream and the slingshot, I think it's kind of an obvious answer of what's going to be happening as Mia Rose in the 956 McLaren goes fastest so far in this race, as it is going to be Michael Menning right there, but into the chicane, in there's a bus stop, it's wheel to wheel, side by side. Oh, that was Michael Menning. That was a little bit cheeky in my opinion. You saw him correct the car. Did he just force Nate Specht off a little bit? That's giving Travis Robinson an opportunity, as Travis is going to go down the inside. Boy, he gets unlucky, gets overtaken by Nate Specht, gets overtaken by Michael Menning. So that's welcome to Spa, ladies and gentlemen. 4 different moves in the space of 2 corners.
I have to respect Nate for trying to go back at Michael Menning. It was such a huge capitalization there from Menning. The battle with the cars in front just realized, you know what, I'm just going to go up on the outside of this and then follow through. Because he knew that the car was going to have to go slow through the bus stop chicane, so he just went up the outside, made it stick, and then Nate Specht tried to come back at it, and now it's going to be Nate Specht getting again past Travis Robinson, who may have gotten the short end of the stick in that fight, but certainly did not want to give up the spot and made a very good case for holding on to it. That's a big pickup for both of Menning and Specht, really.
It absolutely is a massive pickup right there, as we're currently watching Travis Nordstrom, as he is just going to be defending from the car behind that. Okay, no, Nordstrom is attacking the car in front. this is night. If it was daytime, ladies and gentlemen, my job would be way easier, but it's nighttime. As that is one of the things what happens when it's night. It is a bit harder to see what cars are which as we move back to Michael Menning, as he is once again there just chilling at P15, and he is going to be he's going to want to load it up, fire it away. Fox 1, Michael Menning chasing down good old Kevin Lau.
Of course, in the Mustang, I think it's only appropriate that you should say Fox 1 because he is well and truly going at it. I mean, Nate Specht, we just talked about, was able to follow through on the last move, but a gap has already developed. I mean, this is such is the pace of Michael Menning. And once he's freed up here past Kelvin Lau, who I don't necessarily think is going to fight this so much, I feel like there's been more than a couple of drivers so far this race who have been overtaken by Menning into the bus stop chicane on the merit of they don't want to fight with Michael Menning because they know how much faster he is. And you can see Kelvin Lau just lets it happen, takes the defensive line initially, but only to move over onto the racing line post-haste. And now Menning has got some clear air in front, but I see a lot of people in the pit lane. There's going to be Carpenter, Cran, Simons, and Mercer all dropping back. And you mentioned Mia Rose has the purple lap of the race now, chasing down the leader. That's Dominic Duran, and they're back into their proper podium positions. I also saw a stop-go 30, I believe it was earlier on for Zach Martin, so that's going to be an unfortunate, another really unfortunate incident in their race. Zach Martin has had an eventful one already so far here on Spa-Francorchamps, but again, who really hasn't? See on pit exit, Michael Menning is going to gain another position. That's, I believe, Jeremy Mercer moving a fair way down the order, and it's going to continue to drop here on the Kemmel Straight. The lack of the speed, I think it was 4 or 5 cars just saw their way past Mercer on pit exit alone.
Yeah, exactly. And coming out in traffic like that, you've also got to be careful, because even like if you're coming into the traffic, you got to be careful you don't drive into people. But if somebody's coming out the pit lane, you got to be careful that you don't drive into them. But everybody getting through nice and clean as Nate Specht just chilling there in P13. And from, if you're looking at the gaps, P11 we're down to P15. The gap to each car behind is realistically less than half a second. Of course, it's a lot further than that in reality, but the actual gap between car to car, less than half a second apart from Kevin Lau, who is 0.539.
Oh, Michael Menning getting a little bit into the head of Dan Cran there, motion to the inside before moving back to the racing line, and it looks like the 18, or excuse me, the 16 did have a little bit of a wide moment there at the apex of the previous turn and through here. Menning is just all over the back of Cran, who I think is losing the mental battle in a rather major way against the Mustang. Is not going to have the power advantage, is the number 16. And Menning most likely going to see this one through. They're looking to go side by side up through Blanchimont. I think Menning is going to fall behind briefly, although Cran, I think, backs out of that one. Doesn't want to deal with it. And again, I will say, you don't want to fight with Michael Menning. He's going to try to force his way through. That's a little bit of a deep moment. Maybe a potential capitalization there. That was Kelvin Lau. Now Nate Specht looking to try to take advantage. And even further down the field, Jeremy Mercer with a little bit of the knock-on effect trying to get a run on Travis Robinson. But it's not going to quite pan out, I think, for any of those 4 drivers. But Dan Cran ceding position to Michael Menning, and I think that's going to be all she wrote, although as I say it, Jeremy Mercer with the switchback on Travis Robinson, who went just the tiniest bit deep in last source, and now it's going to be a little bit of a battle up through Eau Rouge and Radion.
Yeah, definitely, especially down the Kemmel Straight, as the slipstream is going to be vital. However, setups are going to be everything, of course. With being down here, one thing about Spa, it is a medium to low downforce, realistically, from what I do. But you got to also wonder about how they set up those. Will some drivers be running a lower ride height, or will some drivers be running lower ride height, higher wings, or lower wings, higher ride height? It all comes down to it, really, as we'll go back to Jeff Spangler once again, number 9, McLaren. So what you'll love to see is he's got Simons right in front of him, and it's going to be all the way towards, I'd say this is going to be a battle all the way to the checkered flag for the time being. However, Jeff Spangler, former silver driver, trying to make his way past the current silver driver, and he has another 2 of those in front of him after Simons.
Indeed he does, but as you mentioned, as the gaps start to open up a little bit here, we still got a couple of trains. The one that we were on board with really has been the highlight of most of the race so far in the last 10 or so minutes. I would say. Of course, that's, you know, Kelvin Lau following Dan Cran, Nate Specs, Jeremy Mercer, and Travis Robinson, all kind of co-located with each other. Michael Menning starting to check out from that train already. But one of the biggest stories that we can possibly be following right now is Dominic Duran leading from Mia Rose, but it's not a large margin. You can see they're just about in sight lines of each other. Last lap, Mia Rose was quicker by 0.07 of a second, so this is certainly going to culminate in something. Duran right now in one of the biggest mental battles that you could possibly be in as a racing driver. Your #1 competitor starting to gain ground on you in the late stages of a race, but you can still hold off.
Yeah, I mean, definitely one to think about as literal as we remember back when Duran came out of the pit lane as he heads through that corner. You only just saw the headlights coming over Radion, but now they're going to be all over the rear end of him, and Mia Rose, the gal from down under, is going to want that race win as with the current way that the race is going. She will take the lead of the Drivers' Championship, and it will also give her a nice little gap to Michael Menning. Mia Rose, definitely one of the stories of this season so far, as we look to Jeremy Mercer as we head down the Kemmel Straight, as the tree's getting in the way of everything, as he's on the back of Nate Speck, heading it down towards the chicane once again, but maybe look for a move down the inside. Keeps it safe for the time being, though. Backs out. Don't want to cause any incidents this late on into the race. With 20 minutes remaining, you get damage. That is your race over, and you are out of contention.
His position still paying relatively well in terms of points, so it'll be the last thing that you want. And I mean, speaking of paying well with the points, I'm taking a look here as well at Mr. Sir. As I mentioned at the start of the stream, a driver who has not finished outside of the podium a single time this season. I don't think anybody else can say that. Mia Rose in the first round, I believe it was a P10 finish. Michael Menning had the DNF at Imola. So even the best drivers in this division have not been as consistent as Mr. Sir in so far. Sure, they've had higher highs, but you can't really get so much higher than P2 at Barcelona and then 2 P3s back-to-back. So it's been a solid showing so far this season from Mr. Sir. He's currently chasing down, that's Peter O'Brien, who qualified in second, so is not having the most amazing race that you could possibly have, but a podium finish is a podium finish no matter which way you slice it. And in a field of 38 cars right now, after 1 or 2 retirements that we know of, you're still sitting fairly pretty. I'm seeing Gomer Wilson, actually, the gap coming down relatively nicely to Andrew Rados in front, who is one of the faster drivers on the hot lap leaderboard for this week and currently trying to defend P5. Actually, Gomer Wilson just tipped the purple lap. That's a 2:16.487, which is a screamer in comparison. That's almost a tenth faster than Mia Rose's best time.
Yeah, exactly. So maybe it is just coming down to, I mean, even though it is getting later and later, one thing we've also got to think about is that there's going to be more rubber getting put down on the track, which is going to be increasing your grip, increasing your speeds. Speaking of speed, here we go once again onto the Kemmel Straight. Lamborghini versus Porsche, story tale of a lifetime, and you look at that, there's the slipstream, there is the slipstream, there is the slingshot heading into the right-hander. It's going to be the Lamborghini on the outside, gonna try back out of it, but he's going to keep him there at the same time. Still alongside momentarily, but the Lamborghini unable to get past, and here comes the Honda, looking for the move, the Lambo going for the move on the Porsche once again around the outside. As they head down the hill, it's a freeway battle versus across 3 manufacturers, pretty similar cars overall as well when you think about it. But now it is going to be Wilson who backs away from Andrew as he's going to have to defend from the storm called Nordstorm.
Yeah, you got to be careful about making those attacks, and I think Gomer Wilson, it was a good idea, but the execution just wasn't quite there. You weren't late enough on the brakes in towards Lake Home. Realistically speaking, you can't feed too much later. That Porsche is very pointy on the front end, and if you know that the driver in front of you is able to keep it under control, then you're going to be hard-pressed to try to make anything impactful happen. The Lamborghini, of course, is very strong on the brakes, but it just wasn't quite there. And now, as you mentioned, you're at the mercy of Travis Nordstrom. who is a very strong driver indeed, is currently not really in a net gain or loss of positions, but now with that gap being so much to the car in front, at least you can focus on trying to go for the defense. But similarly for Nordstrom, this opens up the opportunity in towards the bus stop chicane to try to take the inside line. Gomer maybe thinks about going defensive, but leaves the gap open for the NSX on the inside, but they don't go for it. Again, those Lamborghini brakes just too powerful for the number 20 to make a move.
Yeah, I mean, heck, I've switched to McLaren now, but especially for the Lamborghini, it's especially good for controller players as well, realistically. The Lamborghini, very good beginner car in my opinion, because it can punish you if it needs to, but it's very good on the brakes, as it looks like Lorente went a little bit deep, and that's going to give up the opportunity to Quick as we head down the main pit straight and heading down towards La Source, and it's going to be Quick versus Lorente, Ferrari versus Audi, Italy versus Germany. Throwback to good old World Cup or Euros if you watch football or soccer. And I am so sorry about that. As we head down to Eau Rouge and up to the top of Radion once again, all over the back of him, and it's going to be all the way to the, and it's going to be pedal to the metal, foot to the floor. However, the Ferrari does seem to have the better line up the hill.
Yeah, you can see, I think, just a little bit of a wiggle there from Brooker Quick. As we mentioned before, all these cars are running at probably the lowest downforce settings that you could possibly get away with. So with that aero wash, I mean, being so close to the car in front, that's a huge deep moment now for Brooker Quick. They're going to have to bumble over the chicane, and now 2 positions lost, going a little bit deep on the brakes. Andrew Wilson and Omar Escorcia both getting one for free, and Latore gets away now with no pressure from behind. Here we go, moving up the field. Another battle that's starting to culminate a little bit. Travis Nordstrom up behind Gomer Wilson, who is in turn just up behind Andrew Rados. I see a couple of supporters for Rados in the chat. A top 5 spot on the line for each of these drivers. I'm still keeping tabs on the front runners, by the way. The gap at present, as you can see on the left side of your screen, 1.1, 1.2 odd seconds. With the difference in manufacturers here, as you mentioned before, I mean, the car performance is certainly adding a massive mix of variety into this battle. That Lamborghini, as we mentioned, strong on the brakes, very difficult to overtake on pure performance in that zone, but the Porsche, very pointy on the front end. You can't really get around it in the curves if they're solid on the power. But the NSX, on the other hand, is just, well, the NSX. It's not very solid in any regard, but you've got Nordstrom behind the wheel. He's looking for a move into La Source, but thinks better of it, going to try for the run through Eau Rouge.
Yeah, definitely, and it's realistically, as a former Lamborghini driver, you don't want to, you got to hope that somebody does not have more power than you on the straight, as you will get swarmed. The Lamborghini is best if you want to go for those overtakes in the braking zones. It's basically the dive bomber's car, in my experience, with Max Simmons going up into P17, getting past Diaz, but they're going to keep on going against each other down towards Rouge, and up to the top of Radion is going to be Diaz, who slots in behind for the time being.
Probably a wise move as well. Again, this late in the race, you don't want to have an incident. We know that everything is a little bit tense, I would imagine, in Division 1 right about now, as we've seen more than a couple of cars get spun the wrong way. Let's have a little bit of a check-in, by the way. We haven't talked about it a whole lot, but Michael Menning is in P10 right now. We didn't really keep track of the pit lane mix-ups, but for a driver of this caliber, even for a driver of this caliber, I should say, up 23 positions this race, and potentially looking at one more if they can catch Timothy Flanger in front, who's got a 5-second gap to Eric Marecki ahead of them in P8. I don't necessarily think that's going to be a viable overtake for Michael Menning, but what in the world? Yeah, it is indeed a hero run. P10 finish is certainly not what he would be hoping for, but compared to anybody else, that is just legendary in terms of performance.
Yeah, absolutely legendary, and Michael Menning, he deserved the name Alien, as here we go. We've got the Honda on the back of the Lamborghini Huracan Evo 2. heading down into the braking zone, but of course the Lamborghini there as losing grip momentarily, actually going over the sausage curb a little bit too much as that car can get undulated very, very easily, heading down towards turn number 1. Of course, Spa only having one layout. Of course, that's the little minigun layout, which seems to look like on the map with the grip at the back. Heading down towards Eau Rouge once again, though, and up to the top of Radion as we go over to Jeremy Mercer, heading down into La Source. And it is going to be P13 going to be chasing down P12, but also P14 chasing down P13. But there's a little bit of a gap there for the time being, as the gap up top seems to be sticking out 1.2 for Mia Rose, so she's getting a bit unlucky as Jeremy Mercer is now going to be all over the back of the Lamborghini of Lau, but it's going to stay there for the time being as the trees obscure our view once again. Gotta love Spa sometimes, and the Ardennes. Heading down the Kemmel straight, wheel to wheel, side by side, and the red light is flashing on the back of the Lamborghini. That may be something to show, but we'll have to wait and see as we head through the right-hander, around the outside. The Mercedes going for the move. Mercedes, McLaren, and it's a lovely little move right there. It's what you love to see.
Well raced there, Kelvin Lau and Jeff Spengler, or excuse me, Jeremy Mercer keeping it clean. Jeff Spengler, who I don't necessarily think has had the cleanest race so far. Many McLarens who are, I would say, at fault for various incidents so far this race. Still keeping an eye on the top couple of drivers. Mia Rose is kind of holding formation here against Dominic Duran. This has got to be one of the more frustrating positions that you can be in as a racing driver. But Dominic Duran, if memory serves, came out of the pits after Mia Rose did. And looking at the stint timer, which is the only tool that I have, unfortunately, via race control, and it does look like I think Duran is on 1 lap fresher tires. It's not a big difference, but it is just enough where it's worth mentioning. Because when we're talking about grip levels over the course of a race distance, it can make all of the difference if you have just a little bit fresher boots.
Yeah, exactly. Like those fresher boots, they may not help you when you first come out the pit lane, but towards the end, they will definitely come into play. And maybe that's why we're seeing the gap like it is right now. Maybe it's not Mia Rose holding position. Maybe it's just Mia not being able to catch because of the fresher tyres on the car in front as we head down towards the bus stop chicane. It looks like the Barbie car of Jeff's. It looks like, that is a Barbie car, is it?
It indeed is.
Yes, it's hard to tell when it's night time as we continue down towards turn number 1. We're a Barbie team, and it's going to be Jeff Spangler looking for the move on Diaz, heading down into turn number 1, and then once again down to Eau Rouge and up to the top of Radion. But it's just chilling at this 0.2 interval for the time being as we see all the headlights behind as well. It's very much, if you look at the map, everybody is actually pretty close to each other. Well, apart from the number 81 car, which just seems to be chilling.
The number 81 car, who is Patrick Rust, way down the order in P29. You can see on the left-hand side of your screen. But most of the gaps are actually starting to spread out a little bit. We've been keeping our eyes mostly on 1 or 2 drivers so far this race, it feels like. And I'd say 1 or 2. You know what I mean. Fewer than usual is what it feels like. Simply by merit of, there's a couple of drivers who haven't really been involved in a whole lot of fights. Peter O'Brien, I think, is a prime example of that. He's been sitting in P3 practically the entire race after losing a position to Mia Rose earlier on, which was, in the opening couple of laps, the opening couple of tours of the circuit. He has had an entirely uneventful, event so far here on Spa-Francorchamps, which, as I mentioned before, is probably a good thing if I'm talking about the context of this race, because holy cow, there have been a couple of major incidents. And actually, speaking on that, we didn't even talk about the potential. What if Mia Rose picks up a time penalty for the incident that occurred on the straight with Estefano Barrera? It's entirely possible. We didn't really see a whole lot of the context of that.
Yeah, no, we didn't, because we didn't really get the best angle, to be honest, but a time penalty could come her way, and it definitely would make things a whole lot more interesting. With Michael Menning up there in P10, as it stands right now, Mia Rose will take the lead of the Drivers' Championship. However, if she picks up a penalty, that may be in jeopardy.
Spangler, just the tiniest bit of a wiggle under braking there for the car outside. That's Victor Diaz trying to hold it here against the Wiro Barbie team car. Two McLarens though going side by side. It was great traction there for Spangler down towards La Source, and it looks like this is going to be relatively no contest. The number 18, or excuse me, not the number 18, the number 9 car moving out towards the racing line, gets a bump from behind, and there's a knock-on effect. Victor Diaz is contacted, and that is a huge moment for Victor Diaz, completely spun around La Source. That's going to be the end of their fight, and Jeff Spangler now behind Diego Latorre. This is going to be a huge battle up Eau Rouge and Radion. The number 19 just now getting back on the track with many positions lost.
Yeah, well, because of that, we now got a 5-way train with Jeff Spangler. Honestly, right in the middle of it, as we see Andrew Wilson. It is Villas Diaz, Laurent Jeffs. Yeah, there you go. It's updated for me now. It is Lorente, Spangler, Wilson, Escurcia, Quigg, and Diaz, all there. It's a 5-way battle, and it's gonna. And honestly, this is now going to be the thing that we're probably going to need to watch all the way to the checkered flag. But we were talking about Mia Rose getting a penalty. Who's going to get a penalty, if possible, for that incident at turn number 1? Is around the outside is going not around the outside, down the inside is going to go Quigg, as Escurcia was the one on the outside. It is, of course, the two manufacturers going head to head once again, as we are in the Belgian countryside at Circuit de Spa Francorchamps, and probably one of my most favourite circuits after Suzuka and Brands Hatch.
Can't help but agree with you. And oh my goodness, what a bit of action. Jeff Spangler, I feel like if we're talking about who's going to take the blame for that one, Jeff Spangler, I think, was pretty clearly contacted at the apex there by Victor Diaz. I think that's a relatively cut and dry one, and unfortunately for Diaz, oh, as Brooker Quigg goes well wide there, Nate Spencer's going to drive through penalty. What? When did that come up? How long have I missed that for? Did that just come up?
That just came up.
Oh no!
I have no idea how I reacted that quickly to that. As he's going to, as you look at the left hand side, Nate Specht is going to come in and serve that. The only way I think that will happen, the only way I see that happening, is track limit warnings. But you usually get a 30-second for that.
I think the stop go 30s for speeding in the pit lane. Generally speaking, the drive-through is definitely going to be for track limits. Specht, oh buddy, he's been such a huge story tonight. I mean, he had the elbows out. He was fighting for every inch that he could possibly find, and for it to end like that, drive-through penalty. You've said it so many times already. It almost feels like you've spoken it into existence, but we were going to see at least one. There's no doubt about that. A drive-through penalty on the longest pit lane, it feels like, in history, if you are Specht taking that detour right now, the number 3 car. Although, hang on a second, am I? No, Specht, it's just the ACC not updating. Specht indeed has fallen quite far down the order. I'm seeing in P26 right now, and falling even further down.
Yeah, that is his race over. We've got 5 minutes remaining. He's done. It is absolutely done, and I'd say, unless and looking at the timing board as well, Duran has got this in the bag as long as he doesn't bin it. Over the last few laps, that gap between himself and Mia Rose has just grown and grown as we continue on throughout the rest of this race, as with 3 minutes 54 remaining and probably one extra lap, as Brooker Quigg, number 8 in the Audi, is going to just continue on behind Jeff Spangler, and it is going to be all over the back of the number 9, 8 and 9 battling each other. Gold versus silver. It's what you'll love to see. 3 minutes 35 seconds remaining, with the pit window closing in 2 minutes and 30 seconds, and it is going to be continue going as we head once again. I've said this many times, I'll say it again. It's pedal to the metal, foot to the floor, all the way down towards the bus stop chicane. Quigg chasing down Spangler.
You can see a discourse talking about whether or not BI gave up. I can almost guarantee you, looking at the timing sheet, I believe the previous lap for Mia Rose was a 2 minute 17.3. That's a drive-through penalty for Brooker Quigg on the exit of Blanchimont, went over the curbing, and now is out of this fight. Jeff Spangler, a sigh of relief as that the red and white box there shows up on the timing page on the left-hand side of your screen. Oh my goodness, that's huge. That is about as big as it can possibly get. Jeremy Mercer also invalidating there at Radion. Or, you know, it's Dan Crandall invalidated at Radion, so potential track cut there. But you got to worry about the car that's immediately behind you in towards Lake Combe. I don't think it's going to be much of a contest so long as Jeremy Mercer is confident on the brakes here, has the advantage at the apex, and Dan Cran concedes the position to Jeremy Mercer up into P11. Michael Menning, which, by the way, has caught up now to Timothy Flamger. But yes, talking about our leaders, I believe Mia Rose might just be starting to fall off with the tires. The McLaren is very difficult to manage with the fronts, so if Mia has been pushing for a fair bit, which it seems like she might have been, in all fairness, it brought down that gap to Dan Cran earlier on, or excuse me, to Dominic Duran. It's entirely possible that Duran's tires are starting to come back into the equation. As I mentioned, 1 lap fresher, and if he's been nursing the fronts, might be getting a little bit more performance out of that as well.
Yeah, and of course, we need to remember these. Who have been the race winners this season? I know Michael Menning at Barcelona, Mia Rose at Imola. Who won last week at Suzuka?
It was, I believe, Michael Menning. Again.
Michael Menning again. So that would mean Duran will be the third race winner. Out of 4 races here in season 11. So honestly, realistically, it's actually been quite an interesting one when Michael Menning doesn't decide he is going to absolutely rocket ship at the start, as we see Timothy Flamger going to be going through the bus stop chicane, wheel to wheel, side by side with good old Michael Menning, and it is going to be all the way down towards turn number 1. I have no idea why I've suddenly turned into David Attenborough, but heck, that's what probably happens when it becomes very early morning for a British person, because we can change our accent so easily. Anyways, it is going to be 43 seconds remaining on the clock. And you've got to wonder, are we going to get one more lap? I think we should.
I believe the leader is on the final lap right now, so this is the last tour of the circuit. And for Flamger, this has got to be stressful. You want to battle against Menning, and you can see how defensive the line is that Flamger is taking all over the marbles here into Lake Combe. The Aston Martin has power in the straight line. Menning's going to still try to hang it around the outside. It what a move for Menning. Had the advantage at the apex by the look of it, but Flamger's not letting it go. You've only got to pedal for 1 lap, but somehow Menning finds the grip, and it looked like it was no contest. I can scarcely believe it. I mean, I know how strong this driver is, but what a move. It was a valiant defense into the bus stop chicane, a valiant defense into Lake Combe, but Timothy Flamger looks like a rookie out there in comparison.
Yeah, I mean, he's in a Ford. You probably know where I'm going with this. Lock, Fox 1, Splash 1. It's absolute. You do not want to be in the sights of Michael Menning right now going down towards the bus stop chicane is Duran with Mia Rose behind him, and it is going to be the 3rd race winner as long as he keeps it clean here in season 11. Round 1 was Michael Menning, round 2 Mia Rose, round 3 Michael Menning. Here in round 4 in the Ardennes night, as he comes around the final corner, Dominic Duran wins the Spa Grand Prix, and it is going to be one hell of a celebration in the McLaren garage, in the Matrix garage. Dominic Duran, soak it in. You absolutely deserve it.
Close P2 there for Mia Rose. Andrew Rados held on to 5th place despite pressure from behind. Mr. Sir for the first time this season, not on the podium. Travis Nordstrom, Eric Marecki, Gomer Wilson with a big P6 finish for them, and Michael Menning coming across in 9th position, just barely beating out Timothy Flamger is what it felt like, but the gap was almost a second by the end of the race. 25 positions gained for Michael Menning. Dan Cran, a decent result there. Kelvin Lau can't be too disappointed with that one either. Travis Robinson, honestly, it feels like it's a miracle he came across the line at all, considering a couple of spots during that race. And the silver win goes to Guy Mamberson with Max Simons shortly behind, and Andrew Wilson finishing off the silver podium. Jeff Spangler, Omar Escorcia had a bit of a rough one for the both of them, but an 18th and 19th place finish, not necessarily the worst in the world. Mikhail Charles actually with a little bit of a motion up the field. Jason Allen, thankfully, was not on our screens too much today because there was a lot of hectic action featured tonight. But a couple of drivers who maybe didn't have the performance they were hoping for here. Danny Durant, Nate Specht, Brian Ryder, all strong contenders in their own right, but only finished here in the top 20 or so spots. Specifically for Nate Specht, of course, was running in the top 15-ish until that drive-through came in to be served. But God, man, person, a driver who was not expecting to do a whole lot by his own admittance, I think, tonight, ends up in a fairly solid position. That's silver win. Can't be mad with that.
Yeah, absolutely not. It is one thing to think about, and it's definitely going to be interesting for the rest of the season, as many people will continue on to show what they can do in the midfield. Of course, 3 different race winners here throughout the season, and a big thank you to our affiliates, Track Racer. Experience refined gaming with Track Racer's high-quality sim rigs and accessories. Use code SRATE at checkout to support us. And as well as Aura Materio, a toolbox for ACC that will enhance your chance to win. Enjoy a fully customizable and enhanced HUD to change the way you experience ACC. And of course, Go Setups, premium esports setups from everyone. Use our affiliate link on our Discord and take your drive to the next level. And from Castle and Cauldron, a home-based crafting business and specializing in handmade Harry Potter, Fantastic Beasts, and Fairy World collectibles, magic wands, potions, mini dioramas, wall decoration, customary, cosplay, and much more. Castle and Cauldron is where crafting meets the magical. Visit facebook.com/Castle Cauldron. What a race we definitely have to think about there. And I have done the math in my head. Mia Rose does take the lead of the Drivers' Championship, but will a penalty be coming her way?
That is the question. We didn't really get a good look at it, but we'll just have to wait and see. I think one thing is for sure, though. Things are starting to spice up here. Mia Rose, a big finish there, but I feel like the team championship still isn't going to swing their way. I'm actually going to do something that we don't usually do and bring back that team graphic here in the post-race. This, of course, is after 3 rounds, so with the race that just finished, this has not been updated yet, but you can see in P2, we're a Barbie team, 389 points versus the 424 of Madhouse and CM there for Michael Menning and Mr. Sir. So Jeff Spangler didn't really have an amazing finish here tonight, but did bring home those consistency points, right? You finish in the midfield many, many times over, and that will end up netting you some very high-quality points for the team championship. We saw this in Season 9, Division 4 with Selena Boonstra and Jess Osborne, who neither of which really had any particularly amazing performances, but they did bring home the team championship in the end, and that is kind of where they're sitting right now. Mia Rose with the P2 finish, of course, is going to bring home a massive points haul for her team, but Michael Menning in P9, Mr. Sir in P4, those are still a lot more solid than what Jeff Spangler is bringing to the table. Peter O'Brien and Jeremy Mercer actually having quite an outing tonight as well for Macaroni and Steez. So 296 points to them prior to Spa, and tonight feels like it's been a good result for them. But starting to talk a little bit more about what's coming for the future as we are going to be wrapping it up here. We have got Donington Park on the schedule for next week, Alexa, and we're finally done. All right, we're at the halfway point of the season. Mia Rose leads the championship from Michael Menning, who didn't have the qualifying session he was hoping for. I can't necessarily say if that was due to the choice to take race fuel on qualifying, or if he just didn't have the qualifying he was hoping for.
For me, I would say it was more of a qualifying, because he definitely had the pace in the race, but I feel like he qualified way too far down to be able to get further and further up. If he was able to get maybe, honestly, I'd say even 2 or 3 positions higher in qualifying, he could have been up there contending for a podium. And it is definitely one to look out for going into Donington Park, which, if you can't tell by the flag, what's clear, which is now fixed, that's going to be my home Grand Prix. And I am definitely looking forward to it. It's a hard track to overtake on, but it is incredibly punishing when you mess it up. It is, of course, Donington Park with the double hairpin at the end. And it's definitely going to be one to look out for, as you may correct me here, but I do believe that Donington Park will also bring an end to the European portion of the season.
Well, I don't think it's going to bring an end to the European portion, but it will surely bring an end to the British portion of the season. The British
We've
tracks,
only got one race.
the British tracks have a little bit of a reputation here in SRA, and I think it's safe to say that they just have a reputation in general for being challenging and punishing in every single corner in every single way. So Donington will definitely be an interesting one. I feel like it's a track that I personally have not had much of a chance to practice or to race on a whole lot. So I can't necessarily say with much certainty, but I feel like the Mustang might be a little bit strong there, seeing as how, you know, it can really eat up the curbs, and I know that there are a couple of more famous spots of curbing on that track.
Yeah, definitely. It's harsh, it's punishing, and it is going to be one hell of a ride. So I guess this is where we wrap it up, isn't it?
Pretty well. I mean, if you have any closing thoughts, now is the time. I mean, it's been an interesting race, so I surely would not deny you that.
Well, honestly, the nighttime definitely came into it. I definitely feel like final thoughts for me is that the goal drivers definitely got the short end of the bargain, in my opinion, in qualifying, because as the track temperatures lowered, they definitely had the worst side of it. Your final thoughts on this race?
Division 1 needs to keep it cleaner. We had a lot of fun moments. Look, all I'm gonna say is this: it's not a motor race without an incident here and again, but it felt like a motor race and then some tonight. If you catch my drift, we had a lot of close battles that kind of culminated in a bit of an oopsie. So I'm gonna give you a little bit of a slap on the wrist, Division 1. You know, it's not been the cleanest season for SRA as a whole, but it certainly was interesting at the end of the day. But as you mentioned, Alexa, it is just about time to close out the broadcast. And of course, you know, some of us have lives to attend to. I got to go to work. You got to go to bed. So we're probably going to go ahead and shut it down here. But
I got caffeine in me. I ain't going to bed.
But there is more racing happening tomorrow for the interested viewer. The Twitch and the YouTube channel will be live tomorrow evening, 9 p.m. for the other divisions, 2, 3, and 6 going to be occurring tomorrow, if memory serves. So if you want to see more SRA action, be here, same time, same place. We'll not be on stream personally, but we will be live next week with Division 1. It's going to be Donington Park for week number 5 of Division 1. You won't want to miss it. Be there or be square, all of the things. Alexa, if you got any final words, now's the time.
Yeah, if things go your way, I'll see you guys on Division 6.
There you go. Have a good evening, everybody, and we'll see you next time.